What is going on, Profitable Stylists? Good morning. Here we go. We are talking about hair extensions, the difference between knowing how to do them versus actually what do you do with them. We've got with us a guest, John Salvador. John, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Eddie.
And the reason why we got John with us is because John
Doesn't know
is
anything.
new to the world of hair extensions. Bernard, on the other hand, is I don't know, he got a delivery.
Is he unpacking boxes? What's he got going on back there?
Well, when you said something right before we went live, and it reminded me I was kind of teaching in my own salon. The funny thing is, you said, I said, John, are you an expert? And then you said, are you an expert? And I'm like, some people say it is so.
We need names and references, phone numbers, email addresses.
Right. So I don't know. I would like to consider myself a humble expert. I'm impressed by how some people, whether it's on purpose, just super smart, or accidentally, right out of school or still in school, will do something. And I am still like, that's a great idea. I'm
Right.
like, was that just dumb luck? Or are you really smart? And it took me like 30 years to figure this out. You know? In my head, I'm like, either way, it was a great idea. And I throw it in that tool bag. And I think that along the way is what's made me so much further ahead of so many other people in the same field, is I don't mind continuing to pick stuff up. And at one point, I remember hearing an expert say something like that. He's like, I'm not an expert because of anything special. I just been around a long time, made a lot of mistakes, and pulled a bunch of little good things from a bunch of different people, remembered them, and just regurgitate them. And
Right.
so that's kind of where I feel like I am. I wasn't the smartest kid in class in school when I was young. I don't comprehend well when I read a book. But when it comes to hair extensions, I did a lot of them. I screwed a lot of them up. And then I started going to hair shows and teaching, and then classes and teaching. And the craziest thing that I've learned about teaching is that when you're doing hair, you're looking at it like this, right? I'm like right here doing that hair. But if I'm the teacher, like you are right now, you see it from this angle, the side. So that's where I was, seeing it from the side, thinking, I see everything that's going wrong now, because I can see all the wrong angles, all the things that could be done better, which improved my game over time. So in the salon, I brought those mannequins in from my, on Tuesdays, I do a class in the morning, and I brought those in to talk about some things. So today we're going to talk about the difference in, I don't know the official title, but basically the difference in knowing how to do extensions and really knowing how to do hair extensions, because you can just learn a technique. RJ reminded me of something that Hank used to do in classes way back when. He is not a hairdresser, you know, he's just a husband, business owner. His wife was the educator, the instructor, and he would take a keratin bond, put it on the hair, squeeze it with the hot tool, melt it in, let go, let everything go, no rolling, no folding, no nothing. It looked terrible, but then he'd pull on the hair and say, look, it's in. I did a hair extension, but is it right? And I was like, I love the extreme here. It's in. It'll probably stay in pretty good if you press hard enough and let it cool.
Yeah, right.
You pull, but it's going to just spread wide, be ugly, have sharp edges. And sure, some people get somewhere in between really good and that really bad, and it's still not good enough. And so there's always getting better and better. And that's kind of what we're going to cover today. The difference in all these TikTok videos where these people are just showing like, look, I just bought this hair on Amazon and I'm going to show you how to put it in. And it's terrible. But go ahead.
This is why I do a lot of video calls. And this is why I have a lot of people come into the office by us at HCB Beauty, because so many times I'll get a phone call. Oh, I want to buy hair. I'm like, okay, well, are you certified with us yet? Well, I don't want to get certified. I know I've been doing it for years. I don't need to get certified.
I got this.
I'm like, here we go. You know, like, well, why do I need yours? I'm already certified in 5 different other things. Why do I need to get certified in your thing?
Yeah.
I'm like, look, man.
I think I'm gonna play football for the NFL. I've seen it on TV.
Yeah, right. I played college. I played high school.
I
I
never
played
played
in
at
the
all.
yard.
I just saw it on TV. Just
I
throw
saw
it
it
this
on
way.
TV.
I'm sure I can do it. Just,
I have a mug in the shop, and it says YouTube is not beauty school. Number one.
yeah.
Number one. And for me, just real quick about I was a kid that they used to send out into the hall, Bernard. Number one.
So you didn't learn anything. You weren't in class.
Number one. Number two, for me, after 15 years of being in model rooms with the both of you guys and a bunch of other artists that we've played with, and watching you guys do extensions, Eddie, certified me on a couple of extension lines, and really watching what you guys do, I was always like, all right, I could do this. Yeah, I could do this. And then now, 2 years ago, going independent, when I decided to start offering hair extension services, it was a completely different ball game for me, because I had to take into account so much more that you guys, because you're experienced, color is my thing. So there's a checklist that I go through in my head that you guys probably go through in your heads, just from all, like you said, Bernard, all the experiences and all of our failures that all of a sudden you get little nuggets of knowledge from. And it was the first time in a long time where I was actually sweating doing someone's hair.
Yeah.
But and just to your point of that, there is a big difference from knowing to doing, but you have to build that foundation first before you can then put that house on top of that foundation, and the house being proficient with hair extensions, being proficient with color, being proficient, you can go down the list. And that's the coolest part of what we do, is you never know everything.
Never.
And there's always something that's going to throw you sideways, and it's having the experience to go, oh, this is cool, let me tackle this, instead of, oh my God, what am I going to do? So yeah, I agree 100% with you.
So I have a unique way of liking to learn, and it took me a long time to realize this. And it's funny because most people think there's basically two general ways. One is is in person, actually learning from that person, and the other is, if we're going to go to the extreme, is kind of trying to figure it out on your own, right? Maybe watching some videos, online training or whatever. But whether you get professional training or no training and just trying to figure it out, which a lot of people are on the no training side. And I was actually kind of in the middle. I started to realize early on that I do want to kind of try to do it a little bit myself and then get the formal training, because I want to, even if it's on a mannequin or a friend or for free, knowing I'm going to mess up, knowing that it's going to give me more questions and more to understand later. So I like to give it a little bit of a try first. So I have a little sympathy for the people like Eddie, like you're saying, they're like, I just want to buy the hair and just do it. I get it, because they want to see if they should even take the training. But of course they think they can do it. And one thing about the on-stage extensions, it truly is pretty simple. So people think I saw Bernard or Eddie do it at a show, or I saw it on a video. Of course I can do it. But there are some little details that make it work right. And just let me do this shameless plug real quick. In the description of this video below, you can click on the link and purchase the training. In the training, there'll be 2 or 3 or 4, I'm not sure exactly, free videos. Go into the actual training, watch the free videos, see if we're worth it. So worth it. Right now, we sell a kit with enough hair to do 3 or 4 people's heads, maybe not full heads of extensions, but enough to do thickening services, a little bit of length, maybe some highlights and lowlights. I took a girl, Eddie, did you want to talk a little bit? Because I got another long story coming up. And I just feel like,
where are your pretzels? Where are your pretzels?
I know I only had 4 left in the container this morning, and I've eaten them already. But
so yeah,
go ahead, and then I'm going to grab a head.
Yeah, you do that, because you mentioned something that it messes me up. the onstage extensions are conceptually easy to put in until you actually get your hands in it. And this is the thing what makes me mental when I'm dealing with people who have been trained on other systems. And why did you get trained on those other systems? At what point do you think your training has eventually stopped? Was it after the first certification? Was it after the fourth certification? Like, the other thing is this: the onstage beads are smaller than every other bead out there. So you got to now deal with a different hand adjustment, a different body position, a
Different amount of
different
hair.
strategy. The hair is different. The entire process of putting it in is different. Yeah, it's still a weft, but the way the weft is built is different from other wefts. And it's not because of the brand on stage. It's what we do as hairdressers, which I think is disrespectful to the service being done to the client. You want to willingly half-ass a client and take that chance on potentially ruining somebody's hair because
You got it.
got an ego or a bug or something up your butt that you're like, that's it. This is where I'm drawing the line. I don't want to learn anything anymore. I just want to, I'm good enough to know. So that's my thing about it.
Let me test you guys a little bit on the onstage hair extensions. It came up. So recently, I'll tell the story after I do the test. What's the least amount, cheapest amount of onstage hair I could put on a client, buy and put on a client?
$200.
No, name the product.
Oh, the strands.
That's about right. Strands.
Right.
Or you could take one weft and cut it up.
Well, you were on target with the strands. What about the strands? How many packs?
Well, you could get one pack of strands. You got 25 pieces in one pack of strands.
Yes.
If you put that on one person, you could do an entire face framing. If you spread it out, you could create a fill-in somewhere. If you really spread it out, you could create a partial highlight effect.
So you're right. So Brennan in my salon, who watches most of these videos, he does the most extensions in our salon. So it was really nice and humble of him to mention he learned something. So he does a consultation a couple of weeks ago, and luckily it came across my feed, and I was like, my task board. I was like, okay, what happened with Avery? Didn't sell her dad. She's saving the money. She's going to come in middle of late August. She's a student going to college and she wants to go with more hair. I said, what happened? She couldn't afford one weft. It was $400 something. And so I called Avery. I said, hey, Avery, I want to use you as a demo for a consultation in the salon where you come in Tuesday morning at 9 when I do training. She said, yes. So this is what he tried to sell her, one weft that goes all the way around her head like that. And one weft is the least. If you do it in, not that this is what you should do, but I want to talk about the least expensive, all the parameters that make one weft inexpensive. One weft first instead of two is going to be less expensive. The shortest length, because you got 10, 14, 18, and 22 inch, so 10 inch. And then you've got two different densities to choose from, single plus or double. So single plus density. So if we do 10 inch single density, one weft, he's thinking that would be the cheapest. Of course, she's got a little longer hair. So now we got to go to 14 or 18 inch hair, but we can still keep it on the one and the lower density. And I said, Brennan, there's another less expensive option. Most girls are mostly focusing on the thinness right here, like you just mentioned, Eddie. And so we're just assuming we need to put hair on the back of the head, but we don't necessarily. So I said, what about one pack of strands where we put a few strands on one side and a few strands on the other side? That's going to fill in her sides, save her about half the amount of money. And she said, and I'll do that today. In the me teaching the consultation, this is something that you could do in a salon too. Bring a girl in for a consultation. She's a little, I'm not sure. I used this strategy a second time this week. I'm texting a girl. I said, you stood me up for a consultation. What happened? I'm so sorry. My life fell apart. Had to go in for work. Can we do another day? I said, yes. I said, listen, I want to use you as a demo on teaching how to do a consultation to my stylist. So can you not stand me up on this next appointment. She said, I am so sorry. So now the pressure's on. She agreed to come because I said, I don't even know if I have any other stylists that'll be able to watch this consultation at the time, but I put the pressure on her. Like, you're going to be the star of the show. You better show for this. So she'll probably show. If I have a stylist or two that are new and they're sitting around on Friday morning doing nothing, that's tomorrow, I'll have them sit in on it so this girl feels special. Or I'll just say, oh, they ended up doing clients, so we'll just do the consultation between the two of us. But this is the place to start. A little bit on each side. It's so inexpensive. It's so fast and easy that we ended up doing it during the class. Go ahead.
More important than that, even that is powerful. And I'm not making fun of girls when I say this. The two of you have been in the industry a little bit longer than I have, but all three of us, we've been in the industry for over 25 years each. Okay. In your entire career, John and Bernard, here's my question. Because during my career, I have never once met a girl who doesn't push her hair forward. And I say, what about the hair on the back? And she says, I don't give a crap. This is what everybody sees when they're looking at me. So I better make sure I got enough hair in the front.
I haven't met a girl that doesn't want more hair.
Right.
Every girl wants more hair, but I'm saying every girl I've met always pushes her hair forward.
Right. Well, this is what you see in the mirror. It's all.
Yeah. We load up the back of the head and they immediately push it forward.
They're always constant. As with any client, as with any service, they're always concentrating on the focal point. And the focal point for them is right here and through here. Yeah. Right. And that's that exactly. I mean, like Eddie helped me with a client that had gotten 2 really bad haircuts. And she was beside herself. She had a giant family event, and Eddie and I worked on her together with the extensions, and we gave her hair back. And really, most of the focus was right. She was always focused with this right here. You're 100% correct, Ed. And really, and not the shameless plug with the onstage extensions because it's easy for her to maintain. Right. And we, like she said, she called me in tears. I patched Eddie in. She's like, I walked through the door and my daughter looked at me and said, I got my mommy back.
Wow.
What is that? I mean, and literally, and we did, and we did everything in one day. It was 2.5 hours and she bounced out. And she calls me every week because she is now taking care of these hair extensions like gold. She's like, am I doing this right? Am I doing that right? I'm getting text messages from her. Is this the right brush? Things like that. And just the difference that we made. And I got to give it to Eddie, where, like we were talking about, we head mapped her out. And the way we head mapped her out, every section that there was thin and bad hacking on her hair, we filled in. And then, like I said, with the haircut, it wasn't a haircut. We blended, and she's happy as a clam. The long and the short of it really is that in such a short period of time, we can change a head of hair with the systems that we have at our disposal, and the maintenance of it. If they maintain it correctly, they're going to get their money's worth out of it, no matter how much expensive or inexpensive, no matter how much they spend, they're going to get their money's worth out of that hair if they take care of it and maintain it. And they listen to what we tell them.
So let me pick on you.
Let me mention a couple of big differences between kind of what we're trying to focus on here. Many stylists say they do extensions. So just doing extensions and then doing extensions correctly, 2 different things. Or saying you do extensions and then doing extensions that people actually come back for. A couple of times this week, I'm dealing with clients, and I just know from the experience I've had, I just know from the words I'm getting in the text, trying to set up the consultation. One girl says, I've had keratin bonds in for a few years. And she tells me like I know this, but she's wrong. She says, and you know how keratin bonds just over time ruin your hair. And so I'm like, No, I don't know this. I know that many stylists do ruin hair with keratin bonds, but that's the client just assuming that's the norm. And so I tried to educate her, and she's against it because she is the personal experience and testimony of, no, my hair's damaged. Of course, keratin bonds ruin hair. And it's a hard thing to argue with. And so I just want to say to the world, in general, 99% of the time, if your hair's getting ruined, if there's any pain, if they look stupid, they were probably done wrong. That's just general. But go ahead, Eddie. I know you wanted to say some things.
No, this you're bringing up my point. So I told this, John, I want to pick on you for a second because that example, that client was the perfect example of what we're talking about today. You know how to do hair extensions. Why did I need to come help you? Why were you on the phone with me? I mean, I do know why, but I want you to share with everybody. Why did you ask me to come in and assist on that one? Why did I have to be there to help you out on that one?
Because
you know how to do hair extensions.
I know how to do hair extensions. But to proficiently and to fix this client, and this client, you know, she's awesome, but she needed your professionalism and your ability coupled with mine to make her feel like she was really, you know, this was going on. And once again, you knew the angles to take and things like that I don't have the proficiency in yet. And the way that we did the head mapping, and I keep saying head mapping, but it just blew my mind when we did it. And afterwards, when we fixed her, you know, styled her hair and everything, it just blew my mind that it looked, I mean, she has a picture of what her hair used to look like, and it looked almost just like the picture that she had. But yeah, that's why I called you, because I knew that I needed your expertise.
I like the head mapping word you're using. After the certification, we send people a thank you, a congratulations, call Bernard if you need any help, or Eddie. And so very often I say, before you even call or text me, make sure you send me pictures of the client, especially if it's a consultation on how much hair should I order, what length and what should I order for this client. If a person will give me a snapshot of this and of this and maybe of the top, maybe of the back, I've literally screenshot it, zoom in on it, draw lines where the hair should go, wefts or strands or keratin bonds, and I'll do dots for strands and lines for wefts, and then send it back to them and say, this is where you should put the hair. And I'm taking the part into consideration. I'm taking the thickness, the hairline, the color into consideration. So I can help map ahead through pictures. And that's part of the ongoing support after education or training. I can just tell when Eddie wants to talk. Go. He was like, you have to talk now.
It's odd seeing him so quiet.
I know.
No, I enjoy listening. The greatest way to learn is to listen. Okay.
Yeah.
That's right. There was a and this is what I'm getting at. There is a disconnect between the knowledge base of knowing how to do something versus the experience of actually doing something all the time, you know? And the problem is, if you don't get the education on the product that you're working with specifically, okay? Like Bernard was mentioning earlier, you know, he likes to try to get into something before he gets formally trained. John, I know you're really big on the instructions. Before you touch anything, you want to read the instructions. You even want to go so far as to see the MSDS sheets on some of these ingredients sometimes, 100%. You know, to wrap your mind around what's going on. Sometimes you get like, you know, I want to see the product, touch and feel the product. I don't necessarily want to start doing it straight away, but I definitely want to play with it. I definitely want to try to pull it apart and deconstruct it, you know, and see what it's made out of before I get formally trained on it. So we each have our own approach to it, right? And some of the reasons is, and this is the comment which I love, you know, this is the things that should be going through your head. is my client a candidate for hair extensions? If she is, which type? How much hair? How am I going to color match this? Where am I going to place this? Am I going to cut this? Am I going to blend this? How's it going to be styled? How's it going to be maintained? There is this, like you were mentioning, John, this mental checklist that pre-exists in our minds.
Right.
Okay. Now, the phone call I hate getting the most is, I have been doing this service. I have been doing hair extensions for X amount of time, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever.
So of course I'm an expert.
So I know there's nothing you're going to show me that I don't already know.
Right.
Or I have been trained in X amount of different systems, 4 systems, 5 systems. There's no difference. They're all the same. Then why are you coming to me? I'm sitting here minding my business.
Right. Well, we got marketing out there. So
there's, why am I on the phone right now having to talk to you about this? Then why do I have to justify my insanity to your insanity and see if they match up?
That's a good point.
Then what's wrong with the first 5 things that you were doing? Technology improves and changes and evolves all the time. Okay. And no matter how much there is a limitation and a disconnect to being able to apply what you technically know to creating it artistically. And then if you have a brand new product that you are just not familiar with yet, there is a learning curve involved. I don't care how good or how bad you are. There is still a learning curve involved.
Right.
And that's where your disconnect was.
I was telling RJ the same thing this morning. He was talking about the difference in not having official training and having training, and talking about the difference. And I said, and then there's still, even after the official training, you're not done. Because that is one of the things I enjoy the most about being really old. I've been doing hair for roughly 33, 34 years now. And the experiences you can't take away from me. That was one of the things, that same girl God, I hate long texts. I don't even want to read them. And in the long text where she's trying to tell me, first of all, as a client, not even a stylist, how she knows as well as I do. I hate it when they say that. I'm like, don't put me in your world yet. We don't even know. I've never even seen her in person yet. And she's already thinking that she thinks like me. As well as I do, keratin bonds are damaging over time. So my hair's gotten thin. And I'm thinking, no. And then she said, and don't worry, my stylist. And listen, you guys might do this and agree with it because most do. But I'm going to tell you, I don't. So she says, and don't worry, because my stylist cuts all of the keratin bonds in half. So because I have very fine, thin hair. So these smaller bonds are much healthier for my thin, fine, fragile hair. I'm like, no, because I've been, what did I drop? Something. So I've been doing this for so long.
Fired up, man.
He's lost it.
I've had some super fine, thin haired clients that I did for many years. I tried different ways. I've tried cutting the keratin bond shorter this way, so short till it didn't stay in the hair one time. And I had to rebuy all the hair, redo their hair. Expensive mistake. I've cut the bonds in half and thirds and fourths. And the ones that stay on fine, thin hair the most are full bonds. Sure, you cut them down a little shorter, so they're a little smaller when you roll them or fold them, but those stay in fine, thin hair the longest. And I think I know why, but nobody does that. Most people think smaller. And I get the smaller because you have less hair on top to hide the bond. So you think smaller will disappear in the hair a little bit more, but maybe some of those in some areas for camouflage. But the ones that stay in the hair the longest, because I'll put them both on the same head and I watch it happen, are the full head, the full bonds. And the reason is fine, thin haired people usually go through the shedding process faster. So when you're taking a section and split it in half, the percentage or ratio of amount of hairs that are falling out in this section are less. So you take this smaller section and now you have even less hairs. So you have to take the extensions out sooner and redo them if you're going to keep healthy hair. And that's probably also what's not happening, that never happened in the conversation. She's not talking about how long she's trying to wear these keratin bonds to get her money's worth and get her damages worth, because that's where she's getting the damage.
That's where she's at with the damage.
And a lot of the problem is coming from the removal. Most stylists don't remove keratin bonds well or take their time and do it correctly because it's a long process. That's probably the least fun thing about K-tips, keratin bonds, or whatever you want to call them, is the removal process. So most people rush it, use harsh chemicals and a lot of quick combing and some rough pliers to chew up that bond, and they're destroying and damaging the hair depending on the tool they're using. Right. So with all of that said, you can't teach that in a class. And that's saying, oh, take a class and you'll know how to do extensions. You'll be way better off than somebody that didn't take a class, but then still you got to join my Facebook group where me and Eddie answer questions all the time for people having challenges and problems. You got to get our cell phone numbers so that you can, like you two just went through with a client, because John had some sort of reservations about how to handle this client. He had Eddie to help, and they went through some little details where Eddie had a tiny bit more experience in this particular matter.
Everybody needs an emotional support, Eddie. We're getting him the vest and everything. Don't pet me, I'm working.
Don't pet him. Go ahead, Eddie.
Go. I'm working right now.
That's funny. I got golden doodles, and so I think I got to wear the vest because I am the emotional support human for my dog.
For your dogs, right?
Every morning, yeah, they come right up next to me like, we really need you. We're up now. We need you to pet us. And
they just need you to open the door for them so they can go outside. That's really all
they want
need.
to come right back in because they don't want to be away from us.
And when's breakfast?
Yeah, that's true. That too.
The example you brought up about the keratin bond, the idea of cutting them smaller. So this is another great example. Everybody knows about cutting a bond smaller, especially for thin, fine hair, is better. That's the general idea that exists out there.
Yeah, okay? Like tape-ins are the best extensions for fine, thin hair.
That's like tape-ins are the best extensions for thin, fine hair because tape is less aggressive than heat.
I never thought about that being part of the reason that people think
part of it.
Yeah,
part of it.
Funny.
There's a couple of other BS stuff about it, but it's not what this is about right now.
Cursing.
No, I ain't cursing yet. Okay, so everybody knows about the cutting of the bonds of a keratin bond, but like you mentioned, what happens now that you've cut a keratin bond? Where is the square inch or that square amount of section that you need of density to support that bond, regardless of what size you've cut it down to?
Right.
And that's the thing. Okay, I know if I cut this bond, it's smaller, then you're making an assumption. Therefore, if I take, because she has thin, fine hair, if I attach less hair, then I'm not going to hurt the hair. And it's this snowball effect of wrong decisions under misconceptions because you're not trained. You're just creating. What is have you guys heard the thing that's going around right now? It's trending: knowledge versus wisdom.
Mm-mm.
Yeah,
I haven't.
So there's this thing, Bernard. People are asking. It's a social media trend. People are saying, define what is, like, tell me the difference. What is the difference between knowledge and wisdom?
This guy that hated social media 2 years ago is like a social media. Look, did you see the post that RJ just put up here? I think this gives me a little credibility. He said Bernard has certified 3,604 stylists in the last 21 years. Well, that alone, has got to change a person's life.
Whoa, that's awesome.
What does that mean? It means I'm an expert.
You know what? That was the set. You got to spike it.
I probably screwed up the first 400 or 500. Okay, when I was figuring out how to teach.
Come back in for a revisit.
So then it's just 3,204.
Yeah, right. Still
And 4.
over 3,000.
4.
So for the first 604 people, I offer you come back for free to any class I teach in the future. But but this is a head that came to me. Tell me what you think this might be. I've brought it up before. It's, by the way, it's wrong. I just want to see if you got any idea of what's going on here.
So, well, the parting, but what is this for a asymmetrical bob?
So it's it would be a 12-inch weft. I measured, it's 12 inches long, got a bit of a side part going on. And so I'm always in my head.
Should you have drawn that placement backwards?
Backwards? What do you mean backwards? Oh, I see, because of the part. I see what you're saying.
The part's on the wrong side.
In my head, I'm always thinking of how do I separate these things? The most, the least, the best, the worst. This extensions are. This is probably one of our second most watched video. Not this specifically, but the topic of placement. And so this is a weft placed from so high it's wrong to so low it's wrong. And
okay.
Somewhere in the middle, it's right. And what I did was I took a real mannequin head with hair and put a weft in like this. And I showed on this side where the weft was, it would hang lower than the actual.
You've been hanging out with me too much. You can't speak anymore.
I know. So the extension hair would hang really, really long, but there was so much client hair hanging over the weft.
It's a shelf, right?
It was a shelf, right? A lot of words for that, right? Demarcation, no blend, so many names for just being a big mushroom, thick section hair on top of the extension.
Wouldn't that be uncomfortable too? Because if the person was wearing glasses, how would you get the arm of the glasses in there?
Oh, right. There's so much to say about this. I mean, ears are a lot to do, good or bad, with extensions, right? I mean, that's why the sides of heads are thinner already, because they just don't have this section of hair on the side of the head. So just to start with, we got less hair, even if somebody didn't get some bangs to take away some of the side hair, some frame in the face to take away some of the side hair. The ears took away some of the side hair, bad blending, cutting, style, all kind of things, burning it away with the flat iron because that's what we can see the most. So we burn it the most, Some people don't even style the back of their head because they can't see it. True. Often I walk through my wife's closet when we're getting ready to go out and I'm like, you missed a spot right in the middle in the back. She goes, oh, did I? It's just, you can't see it, So she's like, where? Show me. But here, what I would notice was that yes, too close to here, when it grows out, it becomes a problem really quickly. So knowing to get a little further away from the ear helps in a lot of cases here on your lower row. But if you're putting one weft in, where should it go? I mean, it depends on the length of the hair, the thickness of the hair. But this was just a good demo that when we started to go around somewhere in this area, it looked best. Actually, somewhere around here, because you had less of the client's hair hanging over it was the same color. Actually, it was off a little bit, but it started to blend there. And I'll talk a little bit about the cutting being part of that. Not so much the color helps, but the cutting. And then here, it was so high, it did look the best in the blend down here. But when this hair separated a little, you could see the weft because it was so close to the part. So that's knowing what you're trying to hide when you put extensions in helps out. When it's here, if the hair is ridiculously thick, sure, you could put it really, really high. But when you put it high, you're worried about the actual application showing. When you put it low, you're worried about the actual hair blending. So you just have to know somewhere in the middle is right. And depending on length, thickness, color, you might want to go a little higher or a little lower. But what was I going to talk about with the high? Something else came up and I just totally lost it.
You were on a roll.
Well, I beat this into submission. I tell this to John all the time. When you do a placement, obviously that's a wrong one, but regardless of what you do,
it's right here.
It's right there. The problem will never present itself when you initially install hair extensions.
Afterwards.
The problem will always present itself Fast forward 3-4 weeks later, when the hair starts growing out, and now gravity takes over, and it's in free fall. It's in natural fall.
Yeah.
When the hair starts separating over it, that's when the problems always show up.
Yeah, and the good thing about that's one of the big advantages of, hey, I hate to say it, I'm gonna give tape in a little bit of credit, but also on-stage hair extensions. That is one of the upsides of techniques that are reusable. Keratin bonds, you did have a steep learning curve. It takes a little longer to get it right, and if you get it wrong, it's a little more expensive of a fix. And if you put it too close to the front hairline, too close to the part, there are some keratin bonds out there where you can re-tip the hair, but I am not a factory. I'm not a manufacturer. I don't want to re-tip hair. After the removal and the stuff that's on the hair, that tip's not going to stay on well anyway. But when you do a little bit wrong, it is nice to be able to take it out and move it. And with on-stage extensions, it's a fast removal and move up. You want to hear, y'all listen to this. So this is like the week of fixing consultations for me. The truth is I screwed up and I didn't help. Usually I help with the consultations by starting with a call or a text, and then they come in and they meet the stylist and they're half sold. And it was a good test in a way, because technically they should be able to just make a consultation short with one of my stylists and get sold. But unfortunately, I've got the freaking experience and I know what words to use and I know how to talk to people about and when they say things, I can see through what they're saying and what they're really looking for. And so one girl just didn't show up for consultation because she didn't want to come. So I call her, she answers, and she says, listen, I got tape ins. And my wife said, I can't believe you still did a consultation with her talking to you like this. I said, well, part of it was I failed and didn't do my job the week before, and I didn't call these consultations. So I was a little soft to that. I needed to get more people in, but I loved the girl's forcefulness. I loved her confidence. She said, listen, I'm a vet tech. I don't have time to come in here for a consultation. I know what I want and need. And if you can't give it to me, I'm not coming. This is what I have. I have tape and extensions, and I want somebody to take them out, retape them, put them back in. Can you do that or not?
Now, before you carry on, John,
go ahead.
How do you deal with that?
How would I deal with that?
Yeah, so before Bernard goes into let's, because this is great. Let's deconstruct this. Yeah. This is the difference between knowing and doing.
You know what? I would probably engage her in a little bit longer conversation.
I did.
And let her know that I'm someone that she can trust, number one.
Yeah.
And number two, I would say, I appreciate, and I would justify everything she said. I would be like, you know what? I get what you're saying. I understand your time is at a premium. I said, but I want you to hear me out. Let me talk to you about what I can do for you and see if this matches up with what you're looking for. And you almost, with a client, with someone like that, at least what I do is I turn the tables on them. I would turn the table and be like, and not be rude like that though. But you change your verbiage, like Bernard said. He knows what to say. We know what to say. And I would turn around on her and almost make it seem like, are you someone that I want to do your hair?
Right. Maybe not.
Maybe I don't want to do this. But let me tell you about what I got and see if this matches up with what you're looking for. And really, because talking with people is the best tool that we have, one of the best tools we have, and being able to bring them over to what we're looking at is paramount. But also, you know what? There's some that, they have their, I used to have a stylist in California and blah, 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 blah. My stylist in California, then why aren't you flying to California and having this person do your hair? I'm sorry. I don't mean to be, I'm not a jerk like that, but you know what? I don't want to, you're sitting in my chair.
Right.
I used to have this sign someone gave me 100 years ago.
Look,
and it
you
says,
unhinged, off the rails cycle.
Hold on. You stepped on a landmine with this, Charlie. Look, it is sheer foolhardiness to be arrogant to the hairdresser. Okay?
That's what the sign said?
Yes.
How do you handle it, Eddie? And then I'll get back to what I did.
Mr. Kumbaya, Would you?
I
pour
did.
a cup of
I
tea?
did handle this one differently than I ever have before, and I want to tell you guys. But go ahead, Eddie. What would you do?
When I get somebody who's aggressive like that, I
No
actually
soup for
appreciate.
you.
Right.
No soup for you.
Get out! Get out!
Get out of here! Get out of here! He takes his shoe off, throws it at her. Yeah.
I actually love people that are aggressive like that because they know exactly what they want. They make decisions. They're not this wishy-washy on the fence
Right.
type of person.
Right.
Okay. The thing about having an aggressive personality like that, or a strong personality like that, however you want to say to it, there is two ways you could look at this. On one way, you could look at it as there is a level of frustration in there where she has been looking to get some service done. She wants hair extensions, and unfortunately, she hasn't gotten what she's been looking for. So she has taken it upon herself to say, look, man, out of a lot of trials and tribulation and a lot of frustration, I figured it out. I need hair. I want hair. This is where I want it. Because when I style my hair, this is how I have figured it out to make it look like a something. And all of you hairdressers out there are a bunch of idiots, and you can't help me. And I'm sick and tired of this, but I can't do it myself. I unfortunately, I need you. Can you do this?
That's some good insight. And you know what it made me think about what you said earlier? Why are you calling me? If why is there? I mean,
Yeah.
Don't you already have that hairdresser in California? Or don't you already? I mean, you got this done before. Why are you being so hard on me? You've had this done apparently already. Did you not already like it? How do you know what you want?
It's unfortunate. I can appreciate that. It's unfortunate.
And so
I don't appreciate the aggression towards me because it's not my fault. I didn't do this to you, but I understand.
Well, listen. So the only like in her favor part of it was she said, so the stylist that used to do it isn't working there anymore, and I can't find her. And she's got like 3 packs of tape ins. What's a pack? Every company packages a different amount. Well, it was a lot of hair. It was like 3 packs, I think 8 sandwiches in each pack or whatever.
Oh, wow,
and
okay.
so she says, I got a lot of hair, 2 packs of the brownish, brown, dark brown, light brown, and 1 pack of blue that we just mix in here. Okay. And she usually takes them out and puts them back in for $200, but I can't find anybody to do it for less than $400 right now. And I just found a girl that said she'd do it for $200, but I don't think she's got the experience. I'm like, no, you're going to hate it. Right. If you found somebody to do it for $200, it's going to be terrible. But I'll tell you what I'll do, because I'm kind of enjoying this conversation. And how else? In my head, I'm thinking, Eddie, she bought the hair already. She's only had it taken out and put back in twice. So in her mind, she owns hair that would just go in the garbage if we put something else on her head. So it's a hard sell, John. You're saying, let me show you what I got. And I know she's thinking, yeah, but I got hair. I don't want your hair until this runs out. How do we run the life out of this hair? And then maybe I'll consider yours. And so that's going on in my head. Like, I know she wants to get her money's worth. So I said, I tell you what, I've got a few new stylists that I tell all the time, I like this technique. I hate that technique. I don't like tape because it's a sticky, gooey mess. But you know what? I think my stylists have just trust me and been brainwashed for long enough now. I don't think any of them have a really good appreciation for the hatred of tape and extensions. I said, so I'm going to be honest with you. I'd love for you to come in and we will take your hair out and put it back in for $200. It's going to be a class. I'm going to have 2 or 3 stylists working with me on it. And they're all going to get to hate tape just as much as I do. She's laughing.
Love it.
She's laughing on the phone and said,
Awesome.
I'll take you up on it. So getting paid $200 to teach my stylists and having them help was a great idea. So I kind of, let me back this up a little.
Tell me she came in.
Yeah, she came. So
That's
I
awesome.
said, listen, I'm considering doing this. I said, what do you think about this? I'd like my stylists to hate it as much as me. One of them might like it. One of them might think it's worth the $200. They might take you on as a client. I'll purchase the tape and we will redo tape. But let me tell you, I've done a lot of tape. I was one of the first on stage in New York putting a full head of tape ends in when people said tape are just for highlights, color blocking, pieces, chunks. Nobody does full heads with them. And I was like, yes, you can. I've done it lots of times. And I did it on stage when She Hair first came out with tape. And I put
so
a
this
full
is
head.
your fault we're in this mess with tape
Thanks,
extension.
Part of it.
Bernard Ori.
I was buying tape from Hair Visions, which was on right way back when. And the tape strip came about 30 or 40 inches
wow.
long. And you cut it up into small strips. And I happened to cut them up into about 1.5 inch wide sections. So when tape came out, I was like, I've been doing tape from some obscure company, and nobody really understood tape. And I said, yes, tape works really well, but it only stays in a few weeks. It's not like the keratin bonds we've been doing.
Right.
So tape was an option, and it was a less expensive option and a very fairly easy option. But the retaping has always been a sticky, gooey mess. So with this girl, I said, let me just give you a little bit of my history. And I told her that I was one of the first in the country to put it on at a hair show in New York. I'm super good at it. You're going to love what we do to you. It's not worth $200 to me. But if I can teach my staff at the same time and bring in some money instead of no money, it's a win-win here. But I want to be honest. I don't know if we'll ever do your hair again, but you'll get it done this one time. And so she said, I'm good for it. I said, but I have to see if the stylists are in on it too before I commit to it. She said, well, listen, I was going to get color also, some highlights, lowlights, and I was going to pay $220 for that. I said, wait a minute, $420, you're all in? And she said, yes. I said, we'll do your color and your extensions for $420. That makes my class a little more valuable. I won't even touch the color. That's your job, hairstylist. I'll help you get all the hair out. I got a couple of errands to run. I'll go visit my parents, eat a BLT is what happened. Say hi to mom and dad while the color's happening. Come back. Help put the extensions in, and the girl loved them. And so one of my stylists said, I said, you want to get in here and learn how to put the tape in a little? And he said, no, I would never do this again. He's the one retaping the adhesives. He's one of my sons, Taylor. Taylor said, no, I'm watching. Now, listen, I love tedious work. He said, so I loved sitting here, taking the hair out, putting it in. I love tedious work. He even cleaned the hair better than I would. I said, usually I'll leave the hair a little sticky and gooey. It's not worth the extra time for the amount of money we're getting. And so if you want to clean the hair while she's coloring, I would love that. She would love that. He goes, I really want to clean the hair. I said, good for you. Shampoo the hair, dry it, and then retape it the way I taught you. And so then the other stylist, Minda, said, I might do this again. I might take them out and put them back in. I've got the time right now. So it was a perfect situation. They both were like, this is not nearly as easy as on-stage hair extensions. But maybe while I've got time, I'll take a tape-in client. And but you know what? My whole mission here, well, two missions. One was so that other stylists could appreciate it. Because I had one other kind of standby looking on who just got out of school. And she's looking like, that's tape? I didn't know tape was such a sticky, gooey mess, They just hear it from me because it's fun and easy the first time going in.
Sure, yeah, sure.
Tape is fast, easy. Put it in, boom, boom, it's in. And I said, but the real secondary reason I want you in here is I'm going to put a couple of our on-stage wefts in. I'm going to cut them in little 1.5 inch sections and put a few around your face so you can monitor, see. And so when I was putting one in on each side, she said, oh, she's watching. She goes, that's cool. How's it work? I said, listen, it's probably about the same amount of time, maybe a tiny bit slower than putting tape in because I got to pull the hair through the bead, pull it and squeeze it. And the tape is just boom, boom. It's a little easier, but this is going to be lighter, more comfortable, probably less painful, maybe about the same. But the big magic is in a few weeks or months or whatever you go, we'll be able to just take these out and put them right back in. We don't have that 2 or 3 hours of peeling tape off, cleaning with alcohol, blow drying, re-putting tape on, maybe cleaning the goo out the hair. Do we just use alcohol? Do we use a citrusy, oily clean up and then a whole lot of Dawn to get all of that out? Oh my God, it was a mess. I had sticky, gooey stuff all over me for hours. I was wiping it on I'm like, I don't want this in my new truck. How do I get this off of me? So we ended up doing it. She loved it. Texted me a few days later and said, I love my hair. Thank you so
So
much.
here's a question.
Yeah.
John,
Eddie.
Bernard.
in Bernard's example with who's on first? In Bernard's example there with taking a weft and cutting it up into the same size of a tape and putting it in, right?
Right.
It looks just like tape ends.
What is the effect? What do you think the cost effect versus the longevity effect differences are?
I don't know what he just said.
Me either. I'm confused. Hold on. Okay, go down to just 2 syllables a word, and I might be able to understand.
Translation, please.
One on stage weft.
One on stage weft.
If you cut it up evenly, would give you 8, the equivalent of 8 tape-in extensions. Tape-in extensions.
Right.
Which would be the equivalent of 16 sandwiches.
Right.
Okay. So based off of 16 sandwiches of tape-in hair extensions, think about the cost of that.
Oh, okay. I see what you're getting at.
Versus the cost of one weft for as far as service dollars go, right? So that's question 1. And then the follow-up question 2 is, think about 16 sandwiches. How often would somebody have to come in to get that maintained versus the one weft cut up into 8 pieces?
So really 8.
Wait, before let John do it because he doesn't have the
but 16 pieces make 8 sandwiches, right?
We say that again.
16 pieces make 8 sandwiches. Yeah.
So 16 tape-in extensions make 8 sandwiches, which is the equivalent of the same density of an onstage weft, just cut into 8 segments.
Right. So you're
like each one sandwich is one segment of an onstage.
I never even thought about the price here. That's
I see. This is what keeps me up at night. This is what I think about.
So you're as a stylist, first off, from our end of it, your out of pocket will probably be less for that one weft compared to the 16 pieces. The 16 pieces. Yeah. Because that's
if they're sold in 8 increments. Some are sold in 4, some are sold in 10. So now you're stuck with extra hair or less hair.
Right. Yeah. But then your next factor is your time. And it's not your time initially, it's your time when you do that reinstall, from pulling those tape ends out, like Bernard said. You gotta clean them. I used to help Carrie. He would come down to the color department.
Oh yeah.
And he would come down with these wefts, and he would pay my assistant to clean these things, and I'd help her every now and then. And I'd be like, oh my God, but really, and then, how much is your time worth? I mean, what's your time worth? What's Bernard's time worth? What's my time's worth? Because you got to take the time with those extensions, to where with the onstage weft, what do you got to do? You put a bead on the little thing, you read, how long does that take you? You're ending, financially, you're ending up ahead of the game, just on time alone with the onstage extension. I have that one client. Like clockwork, man. It is every 12 weeks. She's back in my chair. We're doing a reinstall, and literally, I pull them out. I do her color while her color's processing. I'm rebeading, and boom, we're done. And she's so happy. And she had a couple, because she's a police officer and she has to pull her hair back. She had a couple of the beads that kind of popped on her a little bit, because she has to crank it back so tight when we told her, don't do that. And for her to come in and for me to slide a couple more beads on there and just kind of fix it, it's boom, 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 boom. And I'm not just saying this just because you're sitting there, Bernard, because I really don't like you. But on stage, what? No, God's honest truth, and I'll take anybody through my books. On stage extensions is my second biggest margin of profit for what I do.
Nice.
You can't argue with that. You can't, and the ease, but I will. And just to go back to when we started an hour ago, the first time I put on stage in extensions and really knowing what to do, but not knowing how to do, compared to what I'm doing now, a year and a half later, it's two different animals. It really is. And you know, I you know, once again, I'm lucky too because I got both you guys that I can no, because you know, Bernard, I still don't like you. Don't
That's
take
why
this
you're in
like
the middle.
oh, it's a sandwich. But no, I mean, and that's the best part about this is, and the best part about with everything that the three of us do with on stage and with the other things that we have going on is that there one of you guys is always available for me to pick your brain. And I'm very fortunate that way. And everybody else who uses on stage, you know, reach out to Bernard. Bernard is kind of an easy guy to get a hold of. He's short, but he sticks out in a crowd.
I don't do hair anymore. This is my full-time job. This thing, I answer your calls. I solve the problems.
Yeah.
It's actually fun for me.
No.
I love mapping out the heads.
I
have another appointment. This went fast, guys. We got to wrap it
up. Okay. Well, thanks
that's
for having
the
me.
hour. Look, man, but look, that's how much this topic is. It's amazing. This is the question I'll put out there to everybody else every week. Give us a comment. Let us know what you guys think. You know, does it make sense? There really is the difference between knowing how to do something versus actually doing something. All right. Thank you for watching as always. Share this video with somebody if you think it'll help them.
Guys.
And if we earned a sub
subscribe and like and goodbye.
That's right. Catch you later.